We are the American Indigenous. Copper color Indians, baby. A real Indian, American Indian is me, not from Africa. Remember that.
African Americans here, but they recently moved here from places like Kenya, Ethiopia, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Zaire. But now the brother whose family's lived in this country for generations, occupying space in all the locations, New York, Miami, LA, Detroit, Chicago, even if he's wearing a dashiki and sporting an afro. And if you go to Africa in search of your race, you'll find out quick, you're not an African American. You're just a black American in Africa taking up space. Why you keep trying to attach yourself to a continent where even if you got the chance to go and you went, most people that wouldn't even claim you as one of them, as a purebred daughter or son of them. Your heritage is right here.
And we are not Africans. We are not African. Are you an African, baby? I'm not no African.
Yeah. Conscious. Matic. Alright, so far where I come from. I sit and wonder about the times that it made sense, but nowadays I don't worry about what's past tense. My younger days I used to hang around with mad friends. If we just fell out, I don't really know what happened. A lot of people come around and keep you stagnant, distraction. So yeah, don't show them no compassion. We was really out here grinding, really rapping, stacking them Franklins, them Grants, and them Jacksons. Imagine if we would've never chased our passion, we probably would've never knew what happened. They was all just talk, we showed action. Once they leave, don't you let them back in. Just pack up all their stuff and send them packing. I'm blacking on anybody thinking they could act up with me. This vibe ain't for free, cause where I'm at in life, I'm only focused on me. Note the self, know yourself, focus on your health. They don't wanna help, then fuck it, do it by yourself. Don't give them no excuse to put you on the shelf. If it's me, myself, and I, then it's no one else. Yeah. Self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Love yourself.
Yeah, practice what you preaching, but clearly they not practicing entitlement and pride. Yeah, those two things they factor in. Spiral out of control just from all the bantering. When they accustomed to talking behind your back with all that chattering, I remove myself before I abuse myself. Talk about self-love, but you gotta do it yourself. Yeah, I won't act too good for no help. We all healing now. Said some things about me that ain't true. How you feeling now? Even at my lowest, they tried to find a way to bring me down. Big y'all up for years, ain't talking just the brand or the sound. I don't throw things around, I do it from the heart proud. Mama just wanna see her sunshine, removing them dark clouds.
Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Yeah, self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Love yourself.
All right, y'all. I'm ready. Hey, how y'all doing? Smash the like button. We're going to get into some, pretty, which I find to be very important. And I say this because the title of the show segment tonight is dealing with loved ones. And loved ones could be family, okay, and friends, neighbors, anybody. It doesn't have to be bloodline. It could just be someone you love that are indoctrinated, and they're with our history. And so when you tell and explain to friends and neighbors about our history, the truth, it's because we've been handed so many lies about our history. Our history in particular is always been a mystery, and it has been. And we need to get to the bottom and develop ways on how to give this information to our family and getting them to understand it and believe it. Because many, many years ago, um, I want to say in the 1930s and probably the 20s and the 1900s, we began moving away from our and practicing our original customs and joining different religious affiliations and just moving completely away from who we used to be. Because when you, for the most part, it's like 95 to almost 100% of our people, really 100%, if you're talking in the time of 1800s, definitely, of our people, and that's here on the mainland, North, South, and Central America, we are transitioned into Christianity, and it was lives and a way of life that we originally did not practice. It was introduced to us, and I'm speaking on all the landmasses of America, all the adjoining islands, like in Puerto Rico and South America. A lot of them are into Catholicism and some Protestant. Okay, here on the mainland, for the most part, it's either Baptist, Methodist, AME, um, Jehovah Witnesses, all kinds. Every religion that believes in God and the Holy Spirit and Jesus, the Trinity, is what they taught us. And moving into that had a huge, humongous impact on who we really were as a people, and really are, not were, are. Because in Christianity, a lot of what we did and how we behaved, um, the church taught us that we had to do away with it, because some of it probably was really bad. Our behaviors, it wasn't a Christian um, lifestyle. So it was downgraded. We were looked down on when we were not Christians. And it began with our own families looking down on us. Like half of the family was into church, the other half wasn't. So you was the bad part of the family who wasn't saved. Do you remember that? Isn't this when family members began solely taking in and being saved, and they say, you saved? That was the first question you asked. You go to church, you saved? Remember
Yes,
that?
yes, I absolutely.
And I remember that clearly from the 70s. And a lot of us do. You saved? Girl. And it came to the point where even our family members, let alone our friends, say, well, I don't want you hanging with my sister's kids because they up to no good. They ain't saved. And you going to turn out to be just like them. Do you remember that in your family?
I remember that too.
I always remember that. Don't hang with Betty. Don't hang with Bebby. Don't hang with Shorty. Don't hang with her. She's going to be out there fighting, and you're going to be right in the middle of the fight. She need to be saved. I don't know why they won't let that girl go to church. Every time I turn around, she beating somebody up. But I was taking up for your child. Y'all remember that? Because I was a little kid. And, when you're a little kid, you cry at things like that. And I would go home and, say to my mom, cousin such and such said that, her kids can't hang with me. And this is my cousins, because I'm not saved. And my mother would just get livid, and grandmother, because I was a kid. You're talking 10, 11, 12, 13, and these are things that totally wiped away our history. And it took place when you became an adult, because kids are going to be kids. It took place during the baptism. That's how, and remember, church is a coping mechanism. It's a psychologically way to live life. Okay, psychologically, because that's what it was. And with our parents, once they get baptized, you know, you go in the water, and when you come up, you're reborn, you're new. Everything that went on in your past is erased. You're forgiven for all your sins because Jesus died on the cross, and everything you ever did bad, including your lifestyle, the way you lived, that being our Indian ways of life, was all forgiven because it was all bad. So at that point, our parents began not looking back, not being called Indian. And you would hear, family members saying, I ain't no Indian. Because that's true. They would say that. No, I ain't. I'm a child of God. You went from being an Indian to, no, I'm a child of God and I'm saved. I know y'all remember those stories.
And I actually remember stories of people saying that they need to be prayed for. Like if there's a certain type of prayer, if they had Indian blood to get the Indian off of them. I
Yes.
remember that too.
Yes. Because, and that's right. That was a derogatory term. If you had Indian and you, or they would call that a demon.
Yeah. Yep. Or like witchcraft or something. You're right. Like a demon.
And they would pray for you. And people that were on drugs, they're hallucinating. And I remember this when they would bring them into church and pray for them. And they'd be, just like gone on some dope or took some LSD, and they start bugging and just hallucinating in the church. I remember as a little girl when I was like 10 years old, I didn't understand it, but I knew there was something wrong with this lady. And she would be talking to spirits in the church. And I remember the preacher going to her saying, who are you talking to? She would say, I love Satan. Oh, it was just like really demonic. And they would pray to get, it was like an exorcist and shit. And it scared me. And I was always scared of that lady. May she rest in peace. She had really big eyeballs, the kind that popped out the eyes. I think it was some kind of hereditary disease, but
Oh,
may
that would
she
have
rest
scared
in
me too.
peace.
I
Yeah,
would
may
have
she
been
rest
scared of
in
that
peace.
too.
But she had big, pretty eyes, but that was a condition. They were just real poppy.
Yes.
And I remember them praying over her. And she was like my auntie's age. I was 10, 11. And they all the pastors and the deacons were praying over her to get whatever demon was in her out. And it just was very disturbing. And it was horrible. But they prayed on this woman for over 4 hours. And I guess that's until whatever drug she was on wore off. But that was the way that they were handling things in those days in the 70s. You're talking the mid 70s. And, it's just, this is what we were moved to. This is the lifestyle. And it was the lifestyle to live. It was the lifestyle to where you were accepted by white people. Okay. There was still, the racism and Jim Crow laws and things of that nature. But pastor had a good relationship with other white pastors who were like Baptists or some sort of, all the pastors were together, whether they were white or black. They would have the meetings, international meetings. And the pastor had a lot of connection with a lot of white people that were Christians. And these white people own big businesses, big chains, and the reference to get a job in like businesses, the reference, uh, pastor's reference took precedent over anything. If they knew you were a member of a particular black church and pastor make a call and give the okay about who you are as a person, you were more likely to get a job with a reference from pastor. I don't know if people remember that back in the 70s, and pastor a recommendation and reference took precedent over just about anything, including in being released from prison. Pastor gave a report to your correctional officer or your parole officer about you being released from prison, and saying, because pastor would come up to, they have rights in the prison to give the church services. So pastor had a lot to do with who was getting a job in the communities. And if you wasn't affiliated with one of the community services provided in our communities, you would just, that's where you got your Pookie and Ray Rays. Because a lot of people didn't send their children to church every Sunday. Only they went, like when you see Pookie and Ray Ray in my hoods go to church, it was only on Easter. Literally. Because we wanted to show out our Easter outfits.
You're right.
Seriously. So that's the only time you've seen Pookie, but Pastor knows Pookie and Ray Ray because their grandmothers are members of the church. So in saying all this, the indoctrination took away all of that. The years and years went by. The older you are, the more you're aware and remember who you were. Like my mom, she's a boomer. And my grandmother would, had she been alive, would be in her 90s. They automatically know. The great grandma, a boomer's mother and father heavily knows. But if they got into Christianity as the generations came forth up to now, it's like literally forgotten. And in between those times, you get James Brown. Let's see. When did he make this song? When did James Brown make I'm Black, I'm Proud? Oh, that was in 1968. Okay. Now, that's right. It was in 1968. I was only 2 years old. But as I grew older, I recollect that song. I remember it when I was a little girl, but I was just the baby. And so that first Black Power movement, because that time was in the civil rights movement. And a lot of our people that were living in the hoods across the 50 states, because by then we were heavily populated in the inner cities in the late 60s, heavily populated. And we were not afforded our rights because we didn't have our rights, because it was or had something to do with our identification as a people, being Black. And so we were second class citizens. Hang on one second. Sorry, y'all. It's so funny. I fried some fish and I have to separate Willie's fish from Sammy's fish because some Negroes will fight over food and won't save. I'm not frying no more fish. So I have to separate their plates and hide one plate so the other one has something to eat when they come home. But anyway, let's get back to where we were. So we're in this Black Power movement for rights. And this includes Martin Luther King, just before the assassination of both him and Malcolm X. So in that time, we were Negroes, okay, in the 50s and 60s and the 40s. In the 40s, we were colored, okay. Some of our parents' birth certificates say colored if you were born depending on when you were born, in the early 50s or late 50s. Early 50s, you were more than likely to be colored. And in the 50s, you became Negro. Okay. And like I said, those are just colors of skin. It was never um, our race identification. So moving along, now you're in the late 60s, coming into the 70s. And then in the mid um, 70s, the movie Roots come out. Okay. Because in the late early 70s, everything was about the Afro American. Because in the 70s, we wore afros. We wore afros. We were brown people wearing afros. And I always show this picture here to give you an idea. I wonder if it's going. I hope it's not going. We wore the afros. That picture right there with Pam Grier, that is straight up 1970s Black Panther movement. And like I said, she's a boomer. So she has the feather in her ear. No, that's Indian. She's dressed with Indian attire. Okay. So now we're in the 70s. And then Roots come out. And after, I think that was the look on our parents' face. It was just startling. We felt sorry for them, but in our heads, we weren't saying that those were our people. We just felt sorry for Kuta Kinte getting the beating from the whip and crying and stuff. And that's the honest truth. And that's across the 50 states. Everybody loved Kuta Kinte because he could run real fast. And we were all hoping that he could run away and get back to Africa. But not once, did we have a conversation saying that this is how you got here in America on a slave ship. Those conversations, even in that time, did not take place in our families. No one talked about being a slave coming over here on a slave ship in our families.
Isn't it true that Roots had more of a social meaning? Basically, it was a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you saw a lot of people our color at that time slot. And I think it was just it was nice to watch people who looked like you.
Right.
Not
And
that it
that,
was your family history.
right. Because a lot of our grannies now during that time, Granny being alive, saying to us, and I always put my picture up of my granny, and I'm just very thankful. Our grannies told us that, you know, my grandmother was born in 1931. This is my mom's mom. And she's the one who told us, why are you crying? And, I talk about that on Facebook with my sister, my brothers, and all my little cousins because we have a huge family. Because we would literally watch that movie as a family around Thanksgiving. It was two movies that we would watch, and we made it tradition to watch it. As that movie and 10 Commandments with Moses, Charleston Heston. And we all sitting there, be so many of us, like 40 or 50 of us in our granny's house, sitting on the floor watching both movies. And that was what we did. Once those two movies over, Thanksgiving was over. Granny was packing everybody's plates, second plates, and making them get out. All right, get out of here, y'all niggas, get the hell out. It was too many of us in there. And we never had conversations. My grandmother talked about her mother. She said, when we cried because they caught Kuta Kinte in the chain and he was going crazy, and we cried. It's like we all cried when they threw that net over him, and we knew that the white man had him, and that was it. And they had already had a meeting with the men in Roots as young men to stay out the woods, and they gave him a description of the white man and something like that, and he got caught because he was trying to find something to make his brother a drum. And it was to that extent, it's been so long. But We all cried. And I remember that because we did not want Kunta Kinte to get caught. And as God is my witness on my grandmother's soul, she is the one who said, what are y'all all crying for? You ain't African. You're Indian. And we just looked, but she went no further. Now, in researching and studying, we learned that our people, now, this is some serious shit, was told that they could not say who they were. And we're talking late 1800s. And if we said that we were Indian, we would get killed. But here's the thing. It wasn't white people just killing us. It was our own people too. So I'm still trying to research, there must have been some kind of code where our people, together with white people who, what we would get in trouble if they said that they were Indian. You couldn't say it. And I'm still researching on that right now. And I get it. But we have to remember, back in them days, in the late 1800s, our people were on legislation in those days. They were senators in the late 1800s. So you have to think like, geez, our people in power, and we're told that we can't say that we're Indian. And then other events are happening from 1830, which is the Indian Removal Act, all the way up to the 70s, which was the hugest migration from the South. But in between that time, the hangings and lynchings and beatings were taught that white people did this to us. But it's because we didn't cooperate to leave our farmland, our home, and get out because of the taxes. A lot of people got hung because they refused to leave from their farm homes and their farmlands. So if they had to, they killed the whole families. And we can't pinpoint whether it was, we know it was Ku Klux Klan, but our people were in on it too. Somehow, our people agreed to the taxes, but it wasn't communicated right to a lot of our ancestors about this new tax law that's coming out, real estate. And it was imposed on us. And if we didn't pay it, that's how they took the land. And it was a fraudulent action. And when Dane taught about the fraudulency of taking our lands in the South, I couldn't put the two and two together, like fraudulently. And then now I understood. I said, yes, it was fraudulently done, but we were being identified. We were not being identified as Indian, to which would Indian, not tax, would apply to us. We were identified as Negroes. So you have these two different names. We went into, a lot of us went in naturally into just by legislation. You became, if you didn't go to Oklahoma, you became a tax-paying citizen under the amendment. And so, therefore, the tax laws of that municipality was imposed on our parents because we were identified as Negroes. So the Constitution now wouldn't apply to us. So that's how they were able to take the land. So it's in researching and study, it begins to make more and more and more sense. What say you to that, Isness?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I missed your last sentence.
I was talking about the tax law that was imposed on us because we were identified as Negroes and not Indians. So not being documented as Indian caused us the Constitution not to apply to us when it said Indian not taxed. It doesn't say
And that
Negro not taxed. Go.
and that particular part of the tax law, I don't think people were aware of. So they didn't understand that once you said that you're not Indian, now you have to pay taxes, and that's why a lot of people got in trouble. It's because and they got their land taken just for taxes because they didn't understand that part. I mean, now we look back and we can understand you have to pay taxes on the land, but to them that was foreign. So
Correct. And this new thing happening because as farm owners and landowners, we didn't go through a payment transaction prior to our parents didn't go through that. You got a piece of plot of land that was, the chief, identified your particular area where you and your family were living. That was it. There was no money or transfer to the chief of fruits and vegetables. We were Indians. We were of the land. And that was just it. There was no like monument, monetary dollars because we didn't have fiat at that time. And so the legislators coming up with a plan together on ways to generate revenue for the municipalities, the states, and the federal government. So you're getting these different taxes. The municipality is taxing you, the state is taxing you, and the federal government when you're working. So when you began working, taxes was coming out of your pay to be given to the federal government. And then the demand for the Social Security taking out your check. Those came in later dates, but we didn't do fiat. So it was easy for them to swipe our land from under our feet.
absolutely. And then a lot of people, what were we? An agrarian culture community. Now you got to remember, some people couldn't read.
Yes, yes.
So when these new tax laws were happening, they were signing up for different things. They didn't know exactly what they were signing, or the person would tell them that they're signing for one thing, and it would be for something else.
Facts. And this is truly documented on the census sheets. A lot of our ancestors, my ancestors, it said third grade reading level, third grade level. That's damn near can't read. So how are you going to understand something new like law? You just didn't. It wasn't,
Like the tax code. Yeah.
Yeah. That, and if it was explained to our representatives that were sitting on legislation, I don't even think they understood it, to be frankly honest. But then again, did they? Because some uppity brown people, Negroes, did go to college. Because hey, think about it. We had in the North, we had brown governors in the early 1700s. So how are you going to govern if you don't have some type of education? And again, that comes from uppity, living, up in North. So yeah, I see the deceit, and it just the truth is more revealed as me being a millennial, and then you have the Y generation right after us who are exposed to so much more, and our reading and comprehension levels are far beyond higher than a lot of our boomer parents and you know our ancestors level. Our level today in reading and comprehension is way beyond what our ancestors were. They had third grade. I mean, I look at my two grandsons. They're they're 8, so they're way past the third grade. They're in third grade, and I'm like, wow, wow, wow. So I
And
said,
I can tell you about
oh,
my family when they came to
go ahead.
California. When they came to California, a lot of the elders, they couldn't read, and California is the city. Or when they came to the city in California, they were like, you need to figure it out. You can't just sign X as a signature. And you'll hear stories of the younger children teaching the older people how to read.
Yep, that's a
And
fact.
so, and there's also stories where property was taken because they couldn't read certain documents. They were being swindled. They had, because we had land and there was rental properties and everything because we had Indian land. And so there's a lot of things that went on. And the reason why we're in this position is because part of the reason is because people couldn't read what they were agreeing to.
Facts. And a lot was going on with our parents. Our parents, like I said, and our ancestors, they raised us based on how they knew. Like if you're talking in the 1800s, okay, and the early 1900s, they raised their children on how to live, how to survive. They raised them based on how not to get killed. So instead of it being education, you know, for the child, it it became militant
Survival.
style,
Yeah.
right? Survival, militant style. So if we got beatings from our ancestors providing those whip, 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 whatever they could find to whoop you, to discipline you,
Mhm.
so that when you did go out, you didn't get killed by a white man or you didn't get killed by a black guy who's militant and Christian, and you are to mind your manners. So we learn in the South, they learn discipline on how to survive, and they learned what we call Southern morals. More in the South, and you only really hear this in the South. The only time you hear it in the North is if those morals are extended to the North during the Great Migration, which it was. But in the South, even to this date, they still say, yes, ma'am, no, sir, yes, ma'am. That is the most Southern style of survival.
Mhm.
And it wasn't yes, ma'am, just to our, it was that to any adult, no matter what their race was, it was yes, ma'am, no, sir, yes, ma'am, ma'am. And you did not talk while grown folks was talking. Those are what you call Southern morals. So, like I said, a lot of us, and that's how they had to raise their children, with morals. Now, our ancestors, our great granddaddies, they had skills. They knew how to build. They knew how to upkeep the house. Like if something was starting to deteriorate, they knew how to make steps and porches and all this kind of shit. The skill, the heavy skills, was always in the South. And the South took those morals and skills to the Midwest, because that great migration from the South went to the Midwest, depending on what part you were in. Texas, Tennessee, all those trade skills went with them. And they also came up here north. So our ancestors, even in the Great Migration, they came here with skills. They came here with strong farming skills here in the north. Now, you're talking 1929 is when my family were forced out of their farm and in the South, and they came directly here to Connecticut. Connecticut. And we've been here since 1929. Now, my grandmother was born here 2 years after my great grandmother arrived here. My great grandmother arrived here in 1929, And my grandmother was born in 1931. So she was the first one born in Connecticut, my grandmother. And then she was raised with Southern morals. My grandmother um didn't go to school past 6th grade. She didn't go to school past 6th grade. Yeah, she didn't. And then she had my mom. Now, my grandmother was raised strictly, you would have thought my grandmother was born and raised in South Carolina, but no, she just had the strong morals and she had the Southern accent because she grew up with her mother. So now I I come, my mother comes. We don't have Southern accents, but we have Southern morals because we got our ass whipped when you was out of order. We had to call adults Mr. or Mrs. We could not call adults by first name. That was a no-no. You got your ass whooped and you was considered trying to be grown. I don't know if you remember hearing that.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, you got your ass whooped. You called her by her first name, my mother would come in and smack me in my damn mouth.
I don't think I would even try to this day. I mean, it wouldn't even cross my mind to call my mother by her first name. And then when you did see people do stuff like that, I mean, it was
It
strange. It was like
freaks
a
them out,
shade or
right?
something. Yeah.
Yeah, like my grandsons, they'll call her mommy a lot, but when they want something, they're like Mookie. They call her by her nickname. They won't call her, by her first name. They're like Mookie. Mookie, it's cute, but I'm like, don't know. You got to check that at the door. They should not be calling you Mookie. She said, Ma, things are different. She says, I'm comfortable with them calling me Mookie. I'm like, that's crazy. They should be calling you Ma. But they call her Ma. Let her call me Bethy. She gonna say it across the street where I can't catch her ass, and that's a fact. I'm Ma. You don't call me by my first name. But when
I
she
know
try to
that's
be funny, yeah. So that being a part of my our Southern morals, still stands. I raised my daughter that way, but she a wild Indian. So that being said, with the movie Roots coming out, on top of leaders, pushing this Afro and then starting to dress like Africans, was real heavy in the 70s. Negroes was wearing nice sharp afros. I remember my father was the barber of Connecticut, and he would be giving, niggas afros, nice afros. My father was real popular to everybody. And everything was about Africa. And that's what we were taught. That was it. But long story short, during the Roots movie, you're not African, you're Indian. She left it like that. And I think that's for the most part for a lot of our families across the states. Nobody wanted to be an Indian. It was a bad thing to be an Indian. It meant you couldn't get anything if you were an Indian. That's what it meant. Because white people didn't like Indians. So you couldn't say, don't say you're Indian. Because if you do, you're not getting nothing. Indians could not get nothing. So we agreed to the Negro. Moving along. So, in living this life and hearing stories in school about slaves and stuff, and then they did teach about the Indians. And I remember, I don't know if you remember when they taught about the Indians, they showed the little pictures were like brown.
Mhm.
Remember, Pocahontas was brown.
She was brown.
She was brown. And we used to play a game, but nobody fucking knows why are we playing this game. We played cowboys and Indians, especially the boys.
Yeah, and the girl I played it too.
We
Cowboys and
played it too. And if they caught the girl, we had to give them a kiss. That's how it was in the North. When we played cowboys and Indian and they chase you, they would not shoot the girls. The girls have to give the boy a kiss. Little fresh ass little boys when you're 10 years old. But I ain't even gonna lie, some of them I did give a kiss. Quick, you know how you do when you're a kid. But that's how we played Cowboys and Indians. Why were we playing that game? Everybody wanted to be the cowboy. They didn't want to be the Indian. I want to be the Indian because the cowboy always shot the Indian.
Yeah, because the Cowboys have the gun. Because the Cowboys
Right.
didn't have the gun. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't mind being an Indian. I said, because I could run fast and you can't catch me and your bullets either. You go pow, pow, pow. So we remember these little games. Why are we playing? And you think now, like, holy shit, we played Cowboys and Indians. And then we never had spelling Indian words. Now, when my daughter came along, she had spelling words. She's a Y generation baby, a millennial. She brought home these long ass words. I was pissed. My arrogance. I'm like, why are we learning how to spell? Why is she learning? And I had a teacher's meeting. I'm like, she can spell out her words, but why is she getting all these long Indian words? I would get so upset. I said, she can't pass it. This is another language. And she's just a kid. Why is she getting? And the white teacher looked at me like, this bitch don't know who she is. Now I understand what that look was for. I didn't know that back in the 90s. 90, you're talking 95. I didn't know that shit. And she looked at me like, why does she have a problem with her learning Indian words? And the teacher was like, it's part of our, spelling curriculum. And Mookie was like, well, mommy, I know how to spell it. I can spell it now. And I just didn't even think about it anymore. But now when I think back, I'm like, holy shit. Now I see why that white teacher looked at me like that. Like, why the fuck does she got a problem with us teaching her how to spell Indian? Bitch, you an Indian. She didn't say that, but now I could read her face.
Thinking, right?
I could read her facial expressions. I didn't understood it back then. And I'm like, oh shit. You come in YouTube and then everything starts, coming back to you. Anything you go through, or any experience you had is always a repressed memory. That's why you're able to think back the repressed memory and the look on that teacher's face. The dunce look, like, what's wrong with this fucking lady? That look, she didn't say it, but that's what it read to me. It comes back, and you remember a lot of things when you're little, and a lot of the songs. We used to sing Indian songs in our hoods. 1 little, 2 little, 3, 10 little, 9 little, 8 little Indians, all that shit. It had to do with the Indians.
Right.
And Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, Catch a Negro by the Toe. All those songs had to do with Indians. I don't know if you remember that song. I don't know. You're
I
in the
remember that.
millennials. You remember Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, Catch a Nigga by the Toe?
But we would say piggy. It was some parent probably changed the word.
Yeah, that was the original word. My grandfather used to sing it. He had a drunk. He was drunk. My grandfather was alcoholic, but he was funny as hell. And he would say, "Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a nigga by the toe." And when we said we get our ass whooped, we had to change the word like you. So a lot of people in X generation remember this. So I'm glad and grateful that I came in the YouTube community, and now I'm able to share this stuff before I leave this earth. And a lot of millennials is the great help. Like, you're talking Dane, you're talking Bap, all these millennials that is just sharpshooters. You're talking Top Cats, A1, all of them. They're all predominantly millennials. I ain't one of them. I don't know. They might be X, but they're in the middle. Empress Holbert, me and Empress Holbert the same. Me, Empress Holbert, Willie, Chief Holiday. We got the X generation. Then you got the millennials after us. That's just, it's like every generation, they get sharper at it, and they're exposed to a little bit more than what we are. They're the digital babies. So they know how to get the shit out to our people faster. So with that being said, and understanding our families who have been indoctrinated to believe that they're African, but they were told lies. Oh, all the records burnt up. All the ship records burnt up. I'm like, okay, well, how are you, if that's true, or all records burnt up, period. If that's true, how were you able to recreate them? And then they say, oh, we use probate records. I'm like, how the fuck are you going to use probate records? We didn't have probate courts back in the 1700s. We didn't have that. So we, being in the South, I mean, it might have, they probably had probate courts for colonial people when we were not part of the 13 colonies. They probably had a probate court. But you have to remember, there's a very long time period that we in the South and North were not part of the 13 colonies. We were never part of it. So how are you going to have probate records on our family lands? You don't. And that's a fact. So that's a lie. And not having probate records on a lot of our family's lands is a problem. Meaning you didn't have land. Now they have these allodial titles, but look at how new those are. And they say, well, some of our ancestors were pretty smart and they understood what they were doing. They put their lands in a trust. So it's a lot. So that being said, because so many of our families are indoctrinated and some are just not, and some just know it and choose not to be, don't be upset, because after a while, they're going to come around. They're going to come around because, number one, it's devastating to hear this. It's devastating. It's a dagger, especially a lot of our men. Yeah, go. You got it.
Well, another thing that we have to realize that everybody wasn't raised around their family.
Right.
Some people are adopted or lived in uncaring homes. One of the reasons why I know my family history, because my mother was an only child. And when the adults were talking, because remember you're saying that you can get in grown folks' business. And while the adults were talking, my mom would just sit back and listen. Okay, so what if you were always outside, or you wasn't around your family, or you was at your cousin's house all the time or something like that? You're not going to hear all these stories to pass down to the next generation. And so, sometimes when we're talking to our family members, we have to realize that maybe some of them didn't hear it because their family wasn't completely intact.
Facts. So our true history really dwindled away from us. And yesterday, you might want to check it. I don't like to share no one's channel, but this guy, Chief Holiday, was on Q Butter's channel last night. They let him on the panel again. Girl, he was on that panel from like 12 midnight to like 8 this morning fighting two dudes.
Wow.
I rolled over out of my sleep about 3 in the morning or 4. And I saw them and I began listening and laughing, because once I wake up at 3 and 4, I can't go back to sleep. So Chief Holiday was just ragging these dudes. And the disbelief and one particular dude, I expected from the guy that you guys know, I remember the one who sings Love, but he was going back and forth with Psycho, who I like, Psycho Atheist or Psycho Atheist or something. They were going at it for hours. And I like Psycho. That's the only time I really watch Q Butter's channel. is when Psycho is overseeing the panel. Otherwise, I don't watch it. It's corny, but he's funny and he's always arguing with people. He's just funny, but that's content creation and he's just good at it. But they argue and they got to the point where they were calling each other's names. This one guy, he had a heavy Southern accent. And Smoke was on there, but by the time I got up, I guess Smoke got sleepy. It was about 3 a.m. Or 4, he fell off. He got off. But Smoke and Chief Holiday at one point was getting on him. And Chief Holiday was dragging him. They couldn't mess with him. And the other dudes were Jamaicans. So I finally got in the chat room and said, well, you're Jamaican, so we're not talking about you. You are African. You can prove you're African. Mm-hmm. But the guy with the heavy Southern accent, and he was a big guy, like Cuddy, big, dark-skinned. He turned his camera on. Because at that point, I got on the panel and I showed him the 1890 Indian census. Showing them how the Negro is the Indian and how the white person is the Indian by remote degree of blood. And then the case of the Cherokees winning the case. And there was something else I showed them, and it wasn't enough. They were just like lost. And I'm like, okay, this happens when a lot of our people's reading and comprehension is not sharp. At its sharpest, at least I'm thinking that. So I just got frustrated and I got off. I said, I can't do it. I said, look, I get you, brother, but you believe you're African, you have proof. And he started talking about the 23andMe test, but no other tests. And I said, well, I'm not going to make you believe it. But I then asked him, I'm trying to remember how it went because it was 3 a.m. But I asked him, I said, where are you from? And he started laughing. He turned his camera on. I said, because I just can't feel you being no African. And he had a heavy Southern accent. He said, who, me? And I was like, yes, because your accent. I said, bro, you're Indian. With that accent, you're Indian. And he just bust out laughing. He just thought it was funny. And I said, no, I'm serious. Where are you from? And where's your family from? When he said Georgia, I almost fell out my side of the bed. And Willie almost fell out the other side of the bed. I'm like, nigga, you a wild Indian. Because I could tell he's a wild Indian. His name is DJ something. I have to go look it up. I said, you an Indian. I don't care what you say. You talking about you from Georgia? Are you serious? So that brought me today to show what I'm going to show. But he's going to come around. I mean, him and Chief were going at it. And they were throwing out threats at each other and stuff. Like that fighting phase. And then the conversation got calm because Chief Holiday would rather communicate with you than threaten you. And the conversation became civil. And they were talking and he was asking interesting questions. So I said, wow, this is such a great dialogue now. So I stayed on listening. And I'm like, they were trying to fight him in so many ways about us not being Indian. So at that point, I just got off the panel. I said, okay, I can't do this no more. I said, but I'm not going to get angry. What I'm going to do is keep sharing the information I have and explaining it in a manner that they can see and understand by not putting words in the document that's not supposed to be there. So, but you can interpret stuff. And so I said, I'm going to go through that. So at the end of the day, don't be upset when friends and family don't acknowledge who they truly are. And that's good. They will come around. because they're going to think about it. Because you begin to tell our people, first of all, when those people come here, there's like no energy connection. And you just know by energy who your blood is. You do. Energy speaks, bloodline speaks. It really does. And culturally, there is no connection. And I understand that we're from this soil. So we're never going to have like that cultural energy connection with Africans. We just don't with those people. And it's not to be mean. And
No,
the same way,
it's not
the
their
same way,
culture. Yeah.
yeah, the same way with Jamaicans. Their energy is like the same as Africans. Their the way their culture is, the way they act, when you really think about it, they're not us. And they are Africans. This is why I don't bother them anymore. Because I'm like, okay, they're right. They know who they are. British has their records and they labeled them Africans. And I believe they are. I do believe them. They look a lot like Africans. They have strong features like Africans. Very strong. So I left it alone and
You
that
know,
was the end of it for me.
the issue, as I'm searching and I'm looking into this deeper, what's happening is you have people from other places trying to tell us who we are.
Yeah.
And that is really, I mean, if we want to get down to the nitty gritty, most of the people who are trying to beat into our head that we're from Africa don't have, their roots really are from somewhere else, no matter where it
Yeah.
is. It's not
Yeah.
from Georgia or Tennessee. They're not this, they're not the same people. So it's
Right.
disingenuous. It's not a real, it's not, it's disingenuous when these people that might be from Nigeria are telling you that, you're Nigerian as well. It's
Facts.
disingenuous.
Right. It is. It's very disingenuous. And um we have to understand. So that being said, it's it's a shock and it causes anger. And I see that with the gentleman that was on the panel. The one from Georgia. Yeah, I don't know what you talking about. I'm African. He was really angry and aggressive with it. And he told Chief, come to me. You were the real one. That he was going in. And I just jumped on the panel and said, where are you from? With that accent. And he just started laughing. And then he began being really nice. He was really nice. I don't remember his name, but I know it's DJ in it. And he be on um Big Dog might know him. DJ something. I forget. But after a while he began being nice. Um a atheist, whatever his name is, a psycho atheist. He's always nice to me,
Right.
even though we totally disagree. He's always very nice to me. He's not mean, and neither is Q Butter. Um, so him being that aggressive, I said, I need to. It just challenges me in lecturing. So I said, okay, I'll have to go back and re-explain and reiterate it in another way that it could be understood without changing the context in the documents, and just keep explaining it in other words, because it's hard hit when you've taken a DNA test and you really believe in um today's science and stating that you come from somewhere, and they're not thinking about the deceit in it. And it's very hard for us to get people that believe in that DNA to not understand the deceit behind it.
And speaking of deceit, Roots is not a real story. Alex Haley was sued twice for
Yeah,
stealing other people's novels, one of which is a white person. So,
yeah,
and then that guy got a lot of money for Alex Haley stealing his book called The African.
yeah,
So when we're looking at, everybody wants to point to Roots as if it's some documentary. It is not real. He got sued. He just Alex Haley just got busted for lying about Martin Luther King, not liking Malcolm X. So now it's kind of common knowledge that Alex Haley embellishes the truth. And like I said, in court, he was sued twice for stealing someone else's story. That's not his story. That's not his genealogical story.
Right. That's a fact. And when that came out, I think that was in the early 80s, right? If I'm not mistaken. And he had died by then. And I remember brothers in the classroom. I think I was in elementary school or probably in middle school. And remember a brother saying how Alex Haley lied and died. I remember that.
Really?
Yeah, because that's when the case came out that he got sued. I believe it
Oh,
was in the early 80s. And
yeah.
I think I was
And
around in 8th grade.
there was a man, a white man, who was funded to go around to all these different cultural places. And he was an agent for the government. He worked for the United States Office of War Information. And he wrote a book called The African, probably one of the propaganda books. The reason why
Uh-huh.
we think that we're African. And so he was an author, and he was an agent for the government. And he sued Alex for
That's good.
stealing his book.
That's good. Well, if you ask me, that's the beginning of somebody stepping forward to tell the truth about our history, just in
Hmm.
another way. That he stole somebody
He stole.
else's literature and
Right.
fake story. And so that being said, also wasn't he sued by Malcolm X's family as well, or somebody was sued by Malcolm X's family? Didn't he write some of Malcolm X's biography or
Yeah,
something?
and that wasn't completely accurate. So I'm sure he was sued about that because reported that that wasn't accurate. Then he did some writing about Martin Luther King, and they just found a transcript. So he's telling us that this is what Martin Luther King said, and everybody's just taking the word for it. Just in like the last year, the transcript came out, and is now it's proven that that was a lie.
Yep.
So anything attached to Alex Haley, you have to really take with a grain of salt, and using roots as proof that we're African is uh, foolish.
Yeah, it is. Okay, yep. I knew I was right. I knew it was about in the 70s because I was like in the 8th grade. And I remember, man, that's his nickname, Man Johnson. He said that nigga Alex Haley lied and died because
Wow.
we found out that it was fake story. And then that being said, with that motivating a lot of our men and women with getting pride and being proud of being black. And I remember them saying, so stand proud, we're the stronger people. We survived all this coming over on slave ships, being beat by the white man. So you're the stronger one because you still alive and you're still standing. And I'm like, we didn't get beat by white people. Our ancestors didn't get beat by white people or brought here on slave ships. So they were instilling that in our men and women. And, they were just rocking that Afro. It wasn't African American at this time, it was Afro American. And, and the pump and the fist. I mean, you had white people with afros wearing the pump fist and everything because the 70s and the late 60s was the uh, Grateful Dead times and hippies and all that shit. And they was, against a lot of shit. And so now we're here today. And to tell someone that, hey, you're not African, this really didn't happen to us. It's like, what? What are you talking about? It did happen to us. And it didn't help with Pastor going over to Africa as missionaries, helping these hungry children. A lot of white people back in the 70s and 80s was making trips to Africa to feed the hungry. But let's keep it real. Those kids was test subjects for a very long time. Very long time. And Africa needs to go to hell for that. Allowing their people to be tested for different things. I'm not going to say any more than that. But now we're today and we're in YouTube and we have men that have done long terms in prison, and this is what they've been living by: brotherly love stuff and the African this and that. So it's really hard. It's not easy. Our task to get our people to understand old records on our ancestors is a very tough task, but it's working, and it's working through myself and the generation after me, the millennials. Is making a strong and very positive impact on getting this information out to those in their era, and they're feeling it. And I'm starting to see, you know, a lot of Indian things. A lot of our sisters are rocking feathers again and doing different things. A lot of our people are going back into spirituality. A lot of them never left spirituality. I remember um, the root lady in the hood that everybody was scared to mess with. Those things still were kept in our hoods, but they were considered witches and demons by the church. Roots and voodoo. I remember my grandmother and her best friend used to go to the root lady to get her oils to rub it on them so they could hit numbers. Very superstitious. And going to the root lady um to get some man to fall in love with you, she would give you stuff. We still practice that in the hoods.
You're right.
Yep. I don't know if anybody remembers that going on in their hoods, but to see so many of our women going back into um learning about the chakras. Look at Brother Sanchez. He's heavy into chakras. We got sisters who teach about the different chakras of your body. That was all our ancestor stuff. And telling you the different um rocks, I want to call them, to wear around your neck to keep evil stuff away from you, and different crystals and stuff that was sent to me, and burning sage and different things. We're going back into doing that. I'm seeing a lot of that going on. I had no idea that my daughter was so into this and knowing about the chakras. I'm dumb. This is where I'm dumb at. And her learning about the Mayan calendar and all this little stuff, she would give me this when she was, in high school. But she knew about it because all her friends was into it, the chakras and all this other stuff. And I just didn't pay it no mind. And I'm like, wow, Mookie knows about this. So we're doing a very good job. We're doing a very good job. We just have to keep practicing. I for one, I hear a lot of our content creators saying that, oh, you're just going to have to forget about all these old heads. They're going to stay and die and not believing that they're Indian. Forget about them. I can't do that. I can't, because I'm so persistent. I will go to the person who's very reluctant to be identified as African, when I know by his spirit and his energy that he is Indian. That's the person. And to me, I like a challenge. So I'm going to keep going because that's what I enjoy doing. So I'm not going to forget the ones, and this guy's around in my era. So I'm going to keep working with him. I'm going to keep teaching it, and they're going to get it. And I know people's energy. Psycho's energy is very different. He stays quiet and he's humble, but he's also fucking thinking, because one thing about Psycho, he's not stupid. And
sorry.
No, go ahead, honey.
I want to bring back the spirituality. I think we're realizing, because we did think it was African and it is taboo and all these different things. And we are realizing that, wait a minute, it's our culture. And being with family from Louisiana, all I heard my life is, oh, You want them Louisiana, you want them, you know what y'all gonna do type of thing, is because the stereotype of the people is that they can work roots and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Louisiana's in America, right? That's the United States.
Yeah. Everybody was scared to go to Louisiana because they hear all the horror stories about how Louisiana is real good with roots and the shit works.
Right, right. And that's our folks, that's our family, that's our ancestors. So, and it's
Yeah.
not from somewhere else, it's not from India or China. That is Louisiana, right here.
Yep. Yep. And it also reminds me of just the little things we do here in the North, that we're so culturally connected to our land. Everybody in the North, when they go on vacation, they go down south.
Mm,
They do.
right.
Everybody in the North goes down south. I don't care if you live in New York, you're going down south. There's something about south, not
Right.
just because it's the warm
To this
weather.
day,
Yeah, we go down there. We have our family reunions down there.
you go back to your family. Yeah.
Yeah, we still practice it. And Big Mama still got the big house that nobody want to go in because it's supposed to be spooky. We've been so indoctrinated, as we went along. No, don't go in grandma's house. Such and such died in there. All the
Mhm.
superstition is still in us. I was in grandma's house and I ain't staying there. I'm staying in a hotel. I seen somebody walk by me. all the all the scary tales from when we was little kids. We ain't
And
going in
frost
there.
and cold.
No. Yeah. And the superstitions that we still maintain. When you see a black cat spit, somebody sweep your feet, you got to spit on the broom. Your nose inching, a man is trying to get in touch with you. Your ear itching, somebody talking about you. All those are southern. That's all southern.
You
And we
know,
still maintain it.
the Obeah women, those people aren't from Africa. Those are people who are from Haiti, which is in the Americas.
Mm-hmm.
And so it needs to be, and I told you this before, we need to do, or I'm going to do a research on finding proof that it really came here from America, because these spiritual practices are from the top to the bottom, all the way down to Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
So how many people came in the slave ship? So what I'm saying is, I have a feeling that it came from here.
Yeah,
And
it
that's
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Remember the witches of Salem here in Connecticut? They burned them
Right.
alive. That's
Right.
crazy. And they just not too long ago gave them clemency, even though they did and burned up, because they was accused of doing witchcraft. It's crazy. That's part of our ancestry. It's crazy. Our roots. And so I say this again, and saying I'm still going to continue with the people in my era, because there's a lot of people in my era that fight I'm African. And I like to challenge. I'm just going to continue to keep getting them to understand it. If we were indoctrinated, we got to become unindoctrinated. And that comes from having an open mind. And they're going to get there. They're going to get there. We're stiff-necked people. So we're not easy to influence. And we're not. But the millennial babies are really working on the future generations, and that's what I'm so happy at. So that's how I live, just by that hope, because our history is around this world, and in other countries they're talking about it. That's how much of an impact we've all made in YouTube. It's reached other countries, and other countries like Africa are coming to communicate with us and telling us and agreeing with us, like, no, this didn't happen. They know it. They just like we have information on our ancient history, they have information on theirs. So they're able to dialogue with us and, you know, confirm a lot of information that Dane's teaching, Holiday's teaching, Power's teaching, everybody over everybody. So it's all positive and it's all good. So again, don't be upset when your family and friends, when you can't get this information into their heads. It will come. And like Dane said, everybody has different alarm clocks. They all wake up at different times. So, with that being said, I'm going to go back to some documents that I read before and reiterate our history. So, let's go. I'm going to do a little reading. Go find. Oh, why isn't this working? All right. Well, house. Da 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 da. I gotta find the information for Greek Indian. Oh, jeez. Okay, here it is. Got it. Whew, didn't think I could find it. So I can get rid of this. All right. Now we're gonna break this down and look into this a little further. Present. Smash the like button, y'all. We're gonna do some reading. All right. So we all seen this document before. I'm not gonna go up to the top. I'm gonna get straight to it. Now, this is the 5 civilized tribes combined. This report that's being sent to the Commissioner of Interior. So we get into the citizens of the 5 tribes watch with a jealous eye each movement of the United States or its agents as questions of vast moment are pending. This made them chary of answering questions proposed by the enumerators or special agents. Now, a serious difficulty was met in the answer to, are you an Indian? Now, if you guys, let's just think about that. And you as well, of course, business. A serious difficulty was met in the answer to, are you an Indian? Why is that a serious difficulty? It shouldn't be a difficulty. You know who the Indians are. Under the laws of the 5 tribes or nations of the Indian Territory, a person, white in color and features, is frequently an Indian, being so by a remote degree of blood or by adoption. Now, we already know what adoption is. That's definitely not by blood. Remote degree means an ancestor was an Indian. Now, so it goes on to saying that there's many white people now resident claiming to be Indians whose claims have not as yet been acted on by the nations. So white people was going in there saying, I'm Indian, I'm Indian. They was, there was residents in there and they was saying that they was Indian. That's so questionable to me. Now we know how white people got to be claim Indian heritage. It's not by immediate parents. It's definitely back some bloodline, if it's even true. Now we get into, and these are the 5 tribes. Negroes are frequently met who speak nothing but Indian languages. Now, let's just stop at that comma. It's not saying anything about the white people that are Indian by a remote degree of blood that speak Indian languages. Nothing at all. But you have these Negroes who you bump into. That's what frequently met means. You bump into them. Negroes are frequently met who speak nothing but Indian languages. Wow, that's very deep. You got these people that look like me and you, and they only speak Indian languages. They don't speak no other languages. And are Indians by tribal law and custom. Now just stop there for a minute. Now, let me just stop this. Stop this for a minute. You have these people that look like me who are written down on their identities that they're Negro. But they don't speak nothing but Indian languages. That's all they speak. They said nothing about the white person speaking Indian languages because they're by a remote degree of blood. That could, I don't know, that could be any amount of ancestors back that supposedly be an Indian. It could have been their 5th or 6th generation, for all we know. But these Negroes, they don't speak anything, isness, but Indian languages. And they're also Indians by the 5 tribes law. It's just clearly understood who the Indian is. Law. It's the law of the 5 tribes that the Negro is the Indian. Not only by law, but custom. That's culture. What say you?
Well, I am in agreement with you that this document clearly tells you that the white people that were around, because the face of the Native American, what you see today, is mostly either a white or an Asian looking person. And so the Asian looking person wasn't mentioned. And the white person they're saying is if they're not part of the tribe, but if they're there, they probably were adopted, which someone mentioned maybe is someone's husband or something like that, or they found somebody. But for the most part, and then even in our speech, we still almost speak Indian language. I mean, we'll speak English and people will understand us, you know? So
Right.
that's all the way.
Yes. And I said, okay, let me look at what I'm reading. And I know I do law every day. That's just my life, period. And it's literally saying that these Negroes, it is what it is, basically saying the Negro, they don't speak nothing but Indian languages. That's all they speak. That's all the hell they speak. But they're Indians by tribal law and custom. What is custom, isness?
You act like something.
Yeah, what is custom? We know what tribal law is.
But you're acting in a certain way, in a certain manner, and this way that you're acting is customary, which means it's repeated. It's normal. It's what's happening all the time.
Correct. Custom. A traditional and widely accepted way of behaving or doing something that is specific to a particular society, place, or time. That's what custom means. So,
So you're behaving.
I mean, you can't make this shit up. Let me.
Yeah.
That's in Merriam-Webster. Let me go here and see what this guy says. Custom. Let's just see what our boy says, because this is a little earlier than the time. Frequent or common use or practice. A frequent repetition on the same act. Hence way, established manner, habitual practice. It's normal for them.
Right.
Custom. Customs with an S in plural, the duties imposed by law or merchandise imported or imported. That's not what we want. But this is what it is: frequent or common use or practice. You can't get no more custom than that. So they're acting their natural way. Well, I mean, it is what it is. So let's go back and finish this little short piece out, because then I have another question to impose. Let's go back there. So you now have the Indian, the Negro, who is frequently met. So this is the agent talking and giving a report to the Commissioner of Interior. When you come up
Frequently
on the
met.
reservation,
So he's saying when he comes up on the reservation, it's a lot of black folks, quote unquote black people.
correct?
Oh, let's say Negroes.
Yep. Or you frequently bump into them when you come up on the reservation,
They're everywhere. Yes.
and they speak nothing but Indian languages and are Indians by tribal law and custom. Now, there's others, and others are met who call themselves Indians, who have not yet been so acknowledged by the tribes. Okay. These circumstances necessarily produce some confusion as to the number of Indians separately designated. However, the total population as given is correct. Now we get into the
So it would be
difficult.
really
Oh,
interesting to know, like in these areas, did they have like tourism? I mean, if I listen to that again, it almost sounds like people kind of came in and left. They weren't just stuck. It wasn't like a jail, like a prison. And
well,
so foreigners came in and maybe did business, and that's why they encountered other people that weren't Negroes.
they did have, um, um, separate allotment homes, and families come and visit and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff like we normally live. But in this instance, the agent is saying, you know, is giving her observation of what is going on in the on the reservation. And she's telling them basically that you go up there, you're constantly met by some bunch of niggas, and they don't speak nothing but Indian languages. And now you're getting into the difficulties surrounding the taking of the census. So this is a census taker giving this information, who has difficulties surrounding the taking of this census, were augmented by the fact that in enrolling the Indians, it frequently occurred that it was necessary to equip 2 and sometimes 3 interpreters to accompany the enumerator to converse with Indians in the same locality. Now, you going off the reservation and somewhere else. All right? And the Negroes, they don't speak nothing but Indian languages. So now this enumerator is saying, man, I got to take 2 or 3 interpreters with me so that they could conversate with the other Indians in the same locality, because they're doing the census and they need them to communicate so he can get the information on the census. I don't know. It's a dagger to a lot of our brothers and sisters who are Pan Africans. And, they're not understanding who the Indian is. So when you see the white Indians, it's just the white ones. And the Negroes are the darker ones. And in these here 50 states, they always counted them together as being one and the same, even when they registered in the armed services. And so to show that they're one and the same, you're not just going to count niggas and Indians together unless they're the same. Now, I go and I show this.
And if they were all slaves, that piece of paper, that excerpt that you just wrote, you just read, would have said the Negro slaves don't speak English, such and such and such. They would have told you they were a slave. So just because it says Negro does not mean they were slaves.
Facts. And it also goes back to, on the census sheet, it's not a race, it's a distinguishment between the two colors. You have the white ones who are frequently met, who are Indian by blood, by the remote degree of blood. But then you have the Negroes who are just, they Indians by law and custom. No blood needed. Seriously. All right. You got these niggas running around and all they speak is Indian language. They don't speak nothing else. Even to this day, when a corporate white person that has strictly grew up in the hood, strictly grew up in the suburbs, you two brown people could be having a conversation and they don't understand this because our word usage has different meanings, even though we're speaking English. So now it brings you to this census here in the North. It was just like that across the 50 states. Now we wait in Connecticut around the same time. And if you look at the end, they always kept and counted the Indian and niggas together. But to keep a track of the one that looks more white versus the one that's just brown, Negro, black, they tallied them together. They separated them from pure white people. Now we get into this. The census sheet only spoke about white people and Negroes. The question is, who is the Indian that made the white person an Indian? There was only two people defined as Indian, and that's the Negro and the white person with the remote degree of blood. So, who is this Indian that made white people become Indians by blood? It could only be the Negro, because those are the only two Indians that they're talking about in all of the 5 civilized tribes. There's no description of anyone else on that reservation. It's just niggas and white people. Niggas is just boom, Indian. And they don't want to face the fact that you understand who the Indian is and how the white person became the Indian. Because you're white, you're European, you came here. But somebody along the line in your family did the coochie coot with somebody. They didn't say anything about doing the coochie cooch with none. And when I say none, None of these dudes. It was just niggas and whites on the reservation, and the Negroes only spoke Indian language, nothing else. So where all these niggas, dude, that has to be their language. Why are they speaking nothing but Indian languages? None of them go to school or not, but they all speak Indian languages. They have like third grade education level, church education, but they speak nothing but Indian languages. These Negroes that are met, and they're only talking about white people and Negroes on these reservations. And I'll be damned if these people here were the Indians that got the white people to become Indians never mentioned. It was because the European did it with the Negro. That's how you became a nigga, period. And law anyway. This is why in 1782, this is here. Why are the Indians and niggas together? Because they're one and the same. No Chinaman mentioned. All they talk about on this census in 1782 is white people and Negroes. You're talking about white Indians and brown Indians.
That's
The
big.
ones with more white features. That's all. They're one and the same. They're not gonna tally niggas and Indians together if they ain't the same. One just has more white features, and they get more special privilege because of their more white features. But in a pure white, in those days, I don't give a damn. You got nigger blood in you. You got to be counted with the Indians. That's what they always tell them. You got nigger blood in you. I'm sorry, Miss Such and Such, but I know you got a nigger granny. I got to count you with the niggas. And it's always been like that.
There's one in the haystack somewhere.
Yeah. I know who your great grandma is. So you got to be, I'm sorry, you got to be counted with the niggas. I can't count you with the pure whites. If I do that for you, you understand you look more white, but I got to count you with the niggas. If I do it for you, then I'm gonna have to do it for everybody else. That's what they told the soldiers that had more white features. A lot of them had to register with the Negro troops because the servicemen, they knew these people had nigger relatives. And they tell them, yeah, I'm sorry, you got to register with, you're not pure white. You got to register with the Negro troops. And if nobody can't see that, they're not talking about these people running around. It was just niggas and white people on that reservation. And that's that's the report from all the 5 civilized tribes combined. And that's it. So this is the information that we have to get our people to understand there. And I tell you, there is absolutely nothing wrong with my reading and comprehension. I read law. I live with law every day. And I have very strong reading and comprehension. The Negro is an Indian.
Thank you.
And you stand on that. You stand on it for life. Don't worry about others that don't, are people that have not come along yet. They're going to come. It's going to take time. It's a dagger. It almost brings tears to your eyes because it's a shock and it's upsetting to people that went and took these DNA tests and they really, really believe that they got the confirmation. Oh, it really does want to make you cry because I know my brother is an Indian of this soil. But after going through all the DNA tests and the everyday teachings, this could hurt them. And all I'm saying to my brothers and sisters that have gone through that DNA test and they strongly stand on it and believe it, I I just all we could do is pray for them. It's a dagger and it's very upsetting and alarming to them because that test told them that they're from Africa and their ancestors in this part of it. It's not true. And I'm fighting for it. Sometimes bring shame. They feel shamed or embarrassed. I've been fighting and I've been rocking African a lot of years of my life, a lot of my years in prison. And to hear this is devastating to them. And it's also very upsetting. But again, I say to you that a lot of us are exposed to information that all of our people are not exposed to. So we just have to continue taking our time. It's going to be a process. It took a very long time, for them to believe that they're African, and it's been since the 70s. And look at where we are. We're in 2023 going on 24. And a lot of our people have been practicing and believing in on being an African that came over here as a slave when in fact this is their land and has been their land the whole time. And when I got my confirmation in who I am, I felt very relieved. It almost makes you want to cry because you're saying, wow, this is really my land. All this time, this, and it gives you a feeling of being proud. At least that's what I get. And it really changes how you feel about your soil and your land. It makes you proud. It makes you happy. It makes you want to take care of it better. It does all kinds of things in your mind, psychological things. It's a good feeling when you let things go and now you accept who you are naturally, who you are. There's a lot of our people that understand and stand on who they are, who have been diehard Pan Africans. And they're fighting this even harder than they fought from when they was a Pan African. And don't get me wrong, a lot of our people fought and stood on Pan Africanism, and they tell those stories. They fight you for African, my African brother, my African sister, but and they fight you to the end. But they begin searching their history naturally and saying, okay, and they give in to the truth. And when you go to sleep at night, your ancestors work on you, and they work on that blood, and they work on you in your sleep. They work on you at night when you're battling this. This is the person transitioning back into who they truly are, and where it's everything's been kept from them. It's okay. We're not living in the 1800s anymore. And all people like myself and all the other YouTube content creators in the American Indian Aboriginal community, all we can do is just keep going and keep teaching our people. We're at war, identity war, and we're making great progress. We are. What we need to stop doing is fighting people on our channels and arguing with them in our chat rooms about our history when they are Pan-Africans. Because the first thing, let's think with our brains. A lot of these people that are Pan-Africans and believe in that way, they know it to be true. Because if they didn't, they wouldn't visit us every single day that when we go live. They're angry and they're mad. And they see the uprising and the winning numbers of our people transitioning back into who they truly are. So all we have to do going forward is ignore people that fight us in our chat room, because they can easily unsubscribe and never come back here, because I'm not going to fight them. My fight is to continue teaching our people, especially the stiff-necked ones, because they're going to watch this show and they're going to start talking to their elders and getting information. It's going to happen. If it happened to me, it's going to happen to you too. It's going to happen. So with that being said, I had one more thing about, I just think it's funny. And every time I read about this lady, I think of, there's only one person in YouTube that I think of when I read this about the lady Emma, the Indian lady Emma. The only person I think about ever when I read this is Empress Hobart. I probably get her to do like a video of saying what Emma says, what Emma tells the pastors in this, and just play it as a laughy. Because, you know, she got that voice when she cuss you out and stuff. But let's read about Emma in the church when they're trying to get the Indians to go to church. So now this is them supposed to be in this church. Here's the church that I have. This is 1897 in Oklahoma. Okay. 1897. Ain't nothing outside this Presbyterian church but Negroes. Very clear. Negroes. Negro Indians. That's all that is Negroes. And they're on horses and wagons. Now, so in the Presbyterian church, Anadarko Presbyterian church, session minutes of the Anadarko Presbyterian church, founded in Indian Territory in 1889, referred to the problem of a Native American church membership. So you notice it's updated a little bit, because back in 1897, where was this? 1889, they never used the term Native American. That's a new terminology. So this was updated, because they can update this. It's online. Anything online you can update with modern terminology. So they go into Indian Territory, founded in 1889, referred to the problem of Native American church membership on every first page. Reverend Silas Fate, along with an elder, examined an Indian named Emma. I'm going to say an Indian named Empress Hobart. Though she accepted Christ, the leaders rejected Emma's application, as she maintained that Christ could not interfere with her own gods. In the follow-up notes, Reverend Fate worried that great harm will come to the mission if care is not exercised in the matter of receiving Indians into the church. Now, for the life of me, I know this is not a white woman speaking in this manner because the Indians had their own gods. That ain't no white woman. That white woman, you better believe, is a Christian or uh, whatever kind of Christian there is that white people go to. This Emma ain't no white woman. Historians working on every era of colonial encounter between native peoples and European and Euro Americans inevitably run into this problem, namely, what constituted an authentic Christian conversation according to missionaries. What words were necessary in the confession? What outward signs in terms of dress, decorum, and daily living were required? Historian Linford Fisher observed this quandary in his study of Presbyterians and other denominations engaged in northeastern Indian nations during the First Great Awakening. My time examining church records from Indian Territory at the Presbyterian Historical Society showed me that the problem remained 150 years later. Why did it endure? And what, if anything, changed? Now look at this little snapshot they done threw up in here. You see a little dark man, and now this is just like the fucking funniest Photoshop picture you would ever see. But this isn't actually at the church, it's at a school. This is the church where old Emma is. Emma's at this church. So this is why I say I knew it was a black woman. Because ain't no white folks out here. It's all black folks. And we're talking about the Presbyterian Church of Onondaga. That woman is a black woman. And she ain't giving up. And Christ ain't interfering with her own gods. Go ahead, sweetheart.
You want me to read it? Oh, no.
No. I thought you had something to say.
I was just laughing at what you said.
Okay, so bring towns, Puritan ministers, civilize a company. There's really nothing else to read but the fact that, okay, we'll get to Emma. To be sure, Reverend Fate rejected Emma, the Indian woman seeking church membership, because she refused to profess Christ alone. But his follow-up notes about the potential harm of native church membership suggest he felt anxieties similar to his predecessors. A later successful membership application provides more information about Fate's scrutiny of Indians seeking affiliation. They ain't want to. In 1894, he reported the first Indian to unite with the church in confession of faith. Her name is recorded as Annie On Jones, and she is a full-blood Kiowa Indian.
And her last name is Jones?
Yes, sir. And you know that she was approximately 12 years old. For any potential doubters, Reverend Fate emphasizes careful examination of the candidate. There can be no question of her fitness for church membership. And you can always look this up and read it. But look at it. Now you tell me. Don't even play with me. Not today. Not today. Let me give them a bomb drop. Because everybody got a cousin Emma Murray look like that. Girl, I just, that's just a bomb drop. All right. And so we know that the church, I'm like so done there. The church was outside full of niggas. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's full of niggas outside the church. The other part where the white looking people was, I'm sure they probably mixed with Indian, but they were at a school. But church, Emma and Jones, and then the pictures, come on. We can't play these games. We can't. So
So
I
these,
said,
so this is it Presbyterian? What church is this?
yes, the let me spell it. You got a
And they're
pen?
going into the Indian community trying to convert them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. So matter of fact, I don't have to do this. I could just put it here and you can look it up. Um I had it right here. Here we go. You got it right there.
Yeah.
Presbyt. And
Presbyterian.
yeah, I'm gonna put the link in the chat for everybody.
There you go.
I know everybody should have this already, but I'm gonna put it in the private chat for you. Paste. Okay. And it's in the back chat for you. And I'm gonna put it in the regular chat. But Emma is Empress Hobart, y'all.
Mm.
So getting into our last thing that we already went over, because the brother that I was speaking to is from Georgia. And I figured, okay, so let me go over the Georgia slides again about the Indian land being surveyed. And then they changed them into voting districts, their territorial areas into voting districts in Georgia. And they still maintain those same numbers. And let's see. We got to help our people. They're going to get it. And it's going to be okay. It really is. All right. So I got this here. This is the last thing that I want to go through. Y'all smash the like button, please. I really appreciate it so much, y'all, when y'all do. And don't be scared to hit the little dollar sign and send up a highlighted message. I like getting those too. There's a little dollar sign at the bottom of the chat. I like to get those highlighted messages too. So feel free to send me a shout out with a highlighted message. So let's go into where is my little document? All right, I thought I had this thing up. All right, let's try this again. This is crazy. Oh, da 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 da. There it is. All right. So now, y'all, the history of Indian Georgia. I hope he's watching. Militia districts still in use today. Georgia Territory Province divided out districts from 1733 to 1879. The idea of having militia districts was to form a buffer between the Spanish settlements to the south and the British colonies to the north. There was always a rumor of war with other nations, but also the Indians, bandits. And bandits mean gangsters, thieves, robbers, crooks, pirates, and French. After the Revolutionary War, the divisions of the Georgia Territory that once expanded to the Mississippi River involved Georgia doing a survey of all the Indian territories of the Creeks and the Cherokees. Now, you already know that the 5 civilized tribes in their report of the Negroes being the Indians by law and customs, and the white people that were Indians were by a remote degree of blood or adopted. Okay. And Creeks and Cherokees are one of the 5 civilized tribes. Those counties already in existence added more counties in the Indian lands. Whose lands is this?
The Indians' land.
Right. Georgia militia districts were formed in each of the counties. There was an elected captain for each district who enrolled those able bodied armed males between the ages of 16 and 50 within his district. So, at this, this is part of the civilization process. They began, you know, setting up and establishing what we call militia districts, what we call today police stations. And you had to be between the ages of 16 and 50. They wanted to provide more protection and the territories, the counties. Muster days were originally intended for military drilling, but eventually evolved to little more than social events. The intent was to protect the residents against invasions of wild animals or wild Indians. It was a good way to meet neighbors and keep up with the latest information about their district. As new counties were developed in the state, they were divided out into militia districts. In 1804, each militia district was assigned a number, and these numbers remain in use today as voter.
As voter districts.
The smaller the number, the earlier the district was formed. Census records usually indicate what militia district is involved as to where these families lived. I got to do a bomb drop, y'all. Okay, I'll do it after. Although parts of the militia district system were abandoned during the Civil War, most of the district boundaries remained intact to serve as political subdivisions and voting precincts. So they're telling you where these Indian families lived, y'all. Ministers were exempt from service. Campaigns were held against the Indians and involved gathering various men from collective districts to do battle. During the Civil War, brigades of GMD, Georgia militia districts, were used to gather forces for battle. Many books have been written detailing the history of these units and their evolution into divisions using during various war efforts. Now, we're going here, and these district numbers are still there today. They're still voting districts. And when you're doing your census, this is how you know what Indian tribe your family was affiliated with. You could not live in an Indian territory unless you were affiliated with that tribe. We were territorial, and like they said, there were wars going on and everything. So each of these numbers have a district. So if you're over here looking on the left, right, because they took the survey of all the Georgia land and for the Creek and Cherokee territory. So if you lived at one of these numbers like 913, and you can see that on census sheets, it tells you the counties and municipality during this early time in the 1800s, in the late 1800s, as a matter of fact. what year did I say? Let's see. 18 1873, I believe, or 1883 or something like that. And we have 1800 census, 1810 census. Thanks, girly, girly. We have 1820 census, 1830 census, 1840 census, 1850 census, 1860 census, 1870 census, 1880 census. All right. 1879, they took a district of all the land. And if your family lived there prior to 1879, was already living in that district, listen, honey, that's the Indian your family was. If they lived at, if the district number was 1092, which is up at the top, 1025, you were a damn Cherokee. That's where the family lived. If that was your district. If you was in Georgia and your district was 1009, you were a Creek Indian. That's the district for these families. These people on the left did not live in Georgia at that time. It was the ones on the right. Don't play with me. So that's why I laughed when I went on a panel on Q Burner's channel, and that guy was with the heavy Southern accent. And, I wonder if he even did his hand genealogy to get the census sheet in a particular area during that time. And if his family lived in that particular municipality or county in Georgia, nigga, you are either a Creek Indian or you a Cherokee, honey. You're not living in those districts in Indian territory. So that's why I was laughing at his accent. So I don't know, maybe, I mean, I doubt, I'm going to put my money on the fact that his family's deep from Georgia and he has a history of being there in the 1800s during the time of the surveying of that Georgia land. And it explained where those families lived.
Now, did you ask him, is his family new to Georgia? Have they been there for 100
No,
years or so?
I forgot because the conversation was going on so fast, but he was just like, I'm from Georgia and I'm a African and I'm the real. He was really fighting with Chief Holiday. And I'm like, okay, that accent, dude. He turned his camera on. He was laughing, maybe because he's being respectful because I'm a woman, but I would like to know if his ass got an 1800 or 1860 or 70 or 80 census or 1870.
That would
And
be a
your
good
family's living there. Your ass is either Creek or Cherokee, depending on which militia district he was in. A lot of people in Wilkes District, which is Creek. So it would be interesting. So, like I said, I'm just going to keep, teaching. I don't want to be on here too long. I believe App said he's going live at about 7:30. I don't know if he's got his thing set up. Let me see if he has his thing set up. I'm not redirecting y'all yet. I'm gonna redirect you when I know he's going live. See if he has anything up yet. Oh God, I hate when Ab do this. He ain't got shit up yet. He's probably tired. But if he's not, huh?
No, what I was saying is earlier when you were reading the census, I thought maybe people were moving in and out of these lands, and that's the reason why those white people were mentioned in the document. But now that you put this whole thing together, I really get it, that they were just they were just a lighter skinned Indian.
Right, they had more of their white features if they wasn't lying about the person who made them an Indian, which is 2-1 the Negro, because they spoke about no other race of people. You're not gonna have white people and Negroes and Indians. Come on, that doesn't make any sense. Think about it. They're only discussing two people, a white person and a Negro. They're not talking about white people, the Negro, and both of them are Indians. Okay, who's the third person? Is there a third Indian that we're missing here? Who is it?
They're just mentioning two groups of people.
That's it. There's not a third person. It's just the people with more white features, supposedly, and the Negroes who don't speak nothing but Indian languages. And they had to use the Negroes to go around and speak to every fucking body in the county to interpret in the same locality. They needed that census taker needed the Negroes to go around and wonder what the hell he's saying. What he say? What he say? It's really hard to understand. So why didn't they take the white person around? Because the Negro spoke nothing but Indian language, and that's all they spoke. The white people were more culturally connected to their white heritage. Hey, Georgia Peach. So I say to everybody in watching this segment, there's no third body. Where's this third body Indian that they're not describing in their notes or in their report to the Commissioner of Ontario? They're only talking about the Negro and the white people. Where's the third missing guy that made them Indians? It is what it is, and it's just over. So going forward, you guys, just ignore these Pan-African dudes that come in here. They're desperate, they're angry, they're mad, they're upset. Let them be upset. Let them dwindle away. Because at this point, we have the strength, and it's the desperate fight to go keep trying to find stuff. They're fucked. The more stuff they try to find and bring to you, the more they lose the battle. Because their information don't make sense after a while. It doesn't make sense.
And you're coming from two different viewpoints, right? You got one group of people who is like from here, we're Indian, and then you have another group of people who probably do have ancestors in Africa. And they're trying to conflate that they may have found an African ancestor with your genealogy and your DNA, and it's not the same.
Correct.
It's not the same.
I say, this is what I say to these pan boo boos. Obviously, we're striking nerves because they pop up in our community. And look, it's like, Sister Bethy, look. That shit don't mean nothing to me. I'm fucking with government documents and a government report. And then we have the recent decision with the freedman. She's a freedman, but she's Cherokee. That judge was no fucking joke. It's over. So when I see these people, oh, look at this. Sister Murphy, look. I just smile. We have the law. We have the law, and the law is in our favor. The district is fucked. The districts, the surveying of the Indian land in Georgia and the damn voting district fucks everything up. You got a bunch of niggas that's still living in them districts way back then going to voting districts in Georgia. They ain't nothing but Indians, Creeks, Cherokees. And them census, and we got the census sheets to match them. I'm talking, you got a fucking 1850, 1860, 1870 census. And this is prior to the surveying of all the Indian land in Georgia. So what the fuck you think those families are? It tells you where these families live. They're talking about the Indians. So you got a Negro on the census sheet in 1870. Fucking Indian. You're in that territory. Who else gonna live there? That's where these families lived. So when you when you see these Pan Africans, look, I got a book. See, this professor. No, 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 no. I fuck with law. I'm a citizen of the United States. I fuck with law. Those Indians are citizens too later on. I fuck with law. Not no scholar's school book. Not no DNA test. That shit's not even admissible in court. I fuck with law. And this is what the law says. This is the federal report sent to the Commissioner of Ontario. It's over. So I'm gonna open up the panel. Anyone's welcome to come up. I would really like to hear your input on this particular segment. Not a coincidence. And King Cash, you cannot come on my channel, on my panel. I'm just vibing with Indians. Straight like that. So I'll put the link in the chat. All are welcome. Sisters, brothers. I don't give a tutti frutti. And I'm still fucking hurt about Cuddy's damn channel being striked and shit. Cause now I don't have no fucking morning show. You know, it's like clockwork, you know? So it is what it is.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
But yeah, I want to call him because I want him to see what the fuck. He's probably busy, but hopefully he'll call me. But we got to stop letting people on our panels, certain people, because they keep bringing up shit and saying shit on purpose to try to get your shit striked.
Right.
So let me take a little break, just till this song is over, and I'll wait for everyone to come up. If you're gonna come on up and rap with me for a little bit. All are welcome. I don't give a damn. I don't give a tutti frutti. Come on up. Come on up.
Time's been moving slowly, so we already in too deep. Can't get no sleep on each other, heavy teasing all day. And when the sun sets, you asking me to come through, kick it with you. Night turn to morning dew, then you feel it rushing in, lose control. You don't wanna go slow. We both already know your place is my place now. My place is your place, let's face it. Baby, you know all the places. Places. My place is your place. My place. Your place. My place. Just face it. No one knows my places like you do. Your places like I do. My place like you do. Baby, don't stop. Got the key to the lock. We in our own zone. Make yourself at home. Get to know mine on the inside. Can meet at yours next time. And you feel it rushing in. Lose control. You don't wanna go slow. For sure. We both already know your place is my place now. My place is your place, let's face it. Baby, you know all the places. Places. My place is your place. Your place is my place. Just face it.
Hi, Georgia Peach.
Hey, sister, what's going on?
Oh, nothing. How's it going?
It's going fairly well right now. God bless.
Okay. So, what say you about today's segment?
I enjoyed it. I mean, you give real good information. I enjoyed it. I just started back tuning in because I be missing you live. I always catch the after part, when you
Oh,
record it. I always catch it. I don't never catch it live. So I when I do catch it live, I try to participate in the chat and I do be listening.
oh, okay. So, what you think about today? I'm really trying to work with our brothers that I know to be Indian just by the energy and the energy. You know that Indian spirit. It connects
Yeah,
quick.
we can tell, we can tell who he is without even talking. It just like you can sense each other. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
It connects
And
automatically.
yeah,
And
but what I was asking, I was gonna ask you about the Georgia. I'm glad you did that. You know what I'm saying? Because now is giving me insight because I'm doing my great grandmother's background and everything, and she was from Georgia, and my great granddaddy was from Mississippi. So
mhm.
I got most of the stuff from Mississippi, but I got to take a trip over there and physically put my hands on stuff.
Oh, okay.
So to do that.
So just like what I just give you this as a tip, just like they did in Georgia, where they surveyed all the Indian land and gave it the district number way back then.
Mhm.
The earlier the district number, of course, is when the earliest is that it was formed. They did that across the states. They surveyed all the Indian land. Even
Okay.
it even and they gave them district numbers. So all you have to
Okay.
do is just determine which Indians occupy that particular territory, that voting district, whatever that town
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
figure say, well, I'll be damned. This was owned by this Indian, and my family census sheet at that time is in this district. So that's who we are. So I say they did a sloppy job trying to cover up work. It didn't work. It can't work
And
because
then
you
no,
did
we gonna be smart to come back and look at that shit and see what the fuck they did.
facts.
Cause that shit
That's a
is crazy. That
that's a
shit is
fact.
all the way crazy. You know what I'm
It,
saying? And when I get to talking, like, I be in my dialysis center and I be listening. I used to listen to Cuddy's show. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. And they be asking me,
mhm,
why you be listening to that? I said, because these folk done lied to us. And if you
yep.
don't want to understand what the hell is going on for real, something wrong with
Wait.
you to want to
It's,
keep being in the dog.
that's right.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
And I don't
I'm
want
just
to be
trying
in
to
the
make sure
dog
this
to
thing.
understand that these people don't lie and
You
to
you you
know they
good.
don't
You
lie.
good.
Yeah, to know they
So
don't lie to us and we sitting
yes,
here still acting like we come from Africa. Something wrong with you.
yeah. We it takes a lot of see you have our real historians here in our YouTube communities, like
Mm-hmm.
A1, A1 on BAP and Top
Mm-hmm.
Cats. Go deep into like the ancient history. Me, I could see things from a modern standpoint and then go back
Mm-hmm.
and say, okay, so this is what they did. The first thing that triggered you, when they're surveying the Indian land, because they do any surveys of land back during those times, it was in fact Indian land, Indian territories. And this is the developing of the civilizing the states, the 50 states across. So while those lands were still in the power of the Indians, they surveyed all of it, all of the land, because it was all Indian land. Now, prior to it being, it's always been Indian land that they've surveyed. Um, and then you have your 13 colonies, okay? But at this point, they already had the 13 colonies. But even though they had the 13 colonies, they still surveyed the Indian land. And it's now easy to determine, wow, what Indian, let me see my granny's census sheet. What territory does she live in? What voting district is this? Each census sheet, you know the district because they have the county. That's the militia district. When you see the counties, those are the militia districts. And each militia district was protected by the 16-year-olds to the 50-year-olds.
50-year-olds.
So now you got to say, okay, if they're protecting that district, what damn Indians live there? Because in the document we was reading about the surveying of the land, it said where those families lived. And the only families they're talking about is Indian families. So if your Nana if you got that census sheet for that year and you're looking at that county and say, well, Nana lived here in 1870, she was on Creek territory. She was a Creek. Because that's all that lived in there was protected by the 16 to 50-year-olds. So what say you to that?
That sounds good though. I mean, cause they left a paper trail for us to follow and didn't think we was gonna do it.
Facts.
That's what it is. They left
Yeah.
a paper trail because they stupid and they think we dumb. We just wasn't informed on how to do things and what was going on because we were minding our own damn business, tending to our families. We weren't studying all the other shit that was going on that these folk done damn created for us to see here this civic shit. You feel what I'm saying? Because all
Yep.
this is ain't never civics.
Facts.
That's all
And
this is. We weren't really studying no damn civics. We were worrying about getting these crops out and making us some damn money. We weren't studying that.
facts.
And that's what this shit done boiled down to.
It's good to be
It's
stuck at
civics.
1870. Find out which county that is because the lands were being surveyed. And you'll find out what Indian occupied that territory. And it'll tell
Okay.
you the Indians that occupied that territory.
That's good to know, Betsy. I appreciate that because you done really gave me a blueprint on how to work things. You understand what I'm saying? I listen to
Mhm.
you and I see what you're doing and I see the growth that you done made and it makes me want to do things too. You know what I'm saying? But I wish I were more mobile than what I am. But I'm doing little by little. God pushing me to do little by little. I'm piecing it together little by little. I ain't just jumping in and grabbing everything, but I'm piecing it
Right.
together little by little.
That's right. You
And
can't. You got to be careful.
yeah, I'm
But
piecing it together little by little
do,
though, cause every time I listen to y'all, y'all give me another little piece to put on so I can be trying to maneuver. Y'all giving
yeah,
it
it
to me now.
helps.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
Yeah, that's why I do these segments and and lecture style so that people could go back because it's a huge task. Georgia, do you know any counties in Georgia I could look up? County
Well,
names
the major county in Georgia is Fulton.
is what?
Fulton County.
Fulton.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, all you gotta do is look at where they hanging Trump ass. You know, hanging right outside the
Oh,
courthouse.
hey, hey,
Well,
hey,
hey,
hey! No,
Alabama.
don't talk like that. Please don't. Please don't.
Hey,
And so I,
Alabama.
I
Okay, so um,
so
let's
I
see.
put a source in there, and it says in Fulton County, Atlanta is district number 1379, 1511, 1289, and 1762, and another one 530.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
did you find out what Indians occupied that area in like in 1870?
Now that's what I was doing just now, trying to figure out who's there.
Yeah, it was a lady long time ago. Well, Mama Chief, she from Georgia. I be talking to her a lot. And I remember a long time ago, I was like in my early 20s. It was a lady in the Fulton, we have these meetings down there at Fulton County City Hall, and they tell you a
Mm,
lot of stuff. And I remember this lady coming in there saying that she's suing the city of Atlanta because they kind of take her land, and it been her land, it been in her family for over generations, and they trying to take it, talking about eminent domain. And I was
oh,
asking
good.
Mama Chief, did she
They do
remember
that
that?
to a lot of
And
people.
she said, "Yeah." She said, "You was in there." I said, "I try to go, back when I was younger, but I'm not as mobile as I used to be. But I tried to go, to see what was going on in the city. Because when you go to these meetings and stuff, you know what I'm saying.
Mm,
First it was like a lot of blacks in there. Then it was a lot of whites. So it's kind of being mixed now. Cause the stars living in Atlanta, they come into these meetings and stuff now, and they starting to get these mayors and stuff elected.
mm,
So I ain't been in the last couple of elections, but I was going. The last one I had went to, that's when they put Cassine Reed in. R. Kelly and everybody were down here trying to
mm.
put him in and everything. But I remember when I was a young girl though, I was asking Mama Chief, did she remember that? Was she going? Cause she said she used to go to a lot of meetings down here. And so I asked her, did she remember that lady, the older lady was saying that they was trying to take her land, and her land had been in their family for over 5 generations. And everybody was like, 5 generations? Like, how much land you got? And apparently she had over 20 acres in the city of Atlanta, and they was trying to take it from her.
Damn. A
Yeah,
hot
she had
mess.
over 20 acres.
That's sad.
Yes. So when you find your county, you just can ask the simple questions of what indigenous people occupy. I just did simple Atlanta, Georgia. And it clearly
Okay.
tells you the Muskegee Creek and the Cherokee people. And just look at the district and whatever name that county is, it tells you which Indians inhabited that county. It
Look up Fayette
literally does.
County. Look
Where?
up Fayette. Fattey. Well, I think that's how I go.
How
Fayette.
you spell it?
F
F A
A.
Y E T T E.
Oh
Is that
yeah.
what you're saying? Fayette.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Alabama.
1870.
You so smart.
The Creek Indians. There it
Oh,
is.
that's the creek.
And that's in 1870. The Creek Indians.
Well, that's
Not
where my
hard.
grandma was in. She's a
There
creek.
you go. There you go. You got them
I
damn
seen
census
that.
sheets. Listen, you got them census sheets from that time, and that's the time you want to do it in between the time. Like, okay, let me get it back up because this is if you're looking in Georgia, right? Let me see. Let me do the share screen. I gotta get back to where y'all are, and then I'm closing out after this because I'm pooped. Um,
And get you some rest. Yeah, it's almost 8
yeah,
o'clock.
yeah, I'm really tired. Um, oh, this is not it. Damn it. Share.
I said she was creek. Something in my mind told me she was creek.
Okay, let me go back to where I was. Start all over.
So my great granddaddy, he was
Yeah, just
Choctaw.
make sure you have the census sheet to back you up because you can say this is
Okay.
where my family lived at this time. Um, and the census sheet, believe me, ain't gonna say they no goddamn slave. Hang on, I'm getting there, y'all. Give me a minute.
It's
All right, here
okay.
we are. Oh, okay. I gotta go here. Okay, here it is. So when you're in Georgia and you're searching, make sure your census sheet. You're definitely not going to get a census sheet for 1733, but you will get one between 1733 and 1879. You can get like the 1800, 1810, 1820, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 1870, and even 1880,
Okay.
and 1890, and whatever. district they're in. It's going to be on the census sheet because the census taker is going to sign it, and it's going to tell you the county, and you're going to know that district number. And all you have to do is ask what Indians occupied that territory during that year or within the time frames of that year. And there you have your family's Indian tribe affiliation because you're not living in those territories unless you're that Indian. You're not just going to be no Negro and just move up on Indian territory. You're not. It just didn't happen. That's why they have fights. Who the hell are you? Where you think you going?
Okay.
Real. We was territorial, and you did not come in our territories. So what they did, they surveyed all the land, and then they assigned them voting district numbers and shit. That's why I said a lot. I don't believe our ancestors were really educated on what these fuckers was doing.
They
But
putting civics on us.
yeah,
That's what they was doing. They was writing
yeah,
all these laws in the civics, and we
yeah,
wasn't into that. We was into what we was doing on our land, minding our business, and say, "Hey, John," and "Hey, Mary." You know what I'm saying? And we kept it
yeah,
moving. We wasn't studying about how much stuff you got on your land and what you doing, and this, that, and the other and third. We wasn't studying that. So they came in
yeah.
writing laws when we freed they ass. We should have never freed them. We should have just killed all on them.
Oh
Oh, should
God,
have did.
stop. You know
Okay,
what?
I
You,
can't say that I would argue with the logic of that statement, but Georgia Peach, you know, when we're deciphering things like this movie, The Killers of the Flower Moon, we have to
Oh
be
God.
very clear about the devious and deceptive nature of these people. The irony of it is when the phrase land speculator was brought up, it was defined as criminal. How was it said? And I would love for you to do a build on that sometime, Queen Mother, on the actual phrase land speculation, because it was considered a crime imposing on land,
mm,
not just how they went about doing it. Then they created
yeah.
these mortgages and deeds. See, Andrew Jackson was referred to as a land speculator.
Mm-hmm.
His nickname was the Indian Killer. When he became appointed or elected
Yeah.
the president of this criminal enterprise, they tried to use that and against him in politicking and campaigning. Donald Trump is the modern version of it when you call him a real estate mogul,
Mm.
a developer. Now, as far as eminent domain is concerned, this is using the Constitution against the American. I don't want to sound like I'm babbling because I know you already wanted to go. You
Yeah,
you
because
you
I
you
want to go.
you
I
already
wanted to
seduced
say
me when you played my
yeah.
song. That's why I brought it up.
I want to
So
just say one more thing and get out of here, y'all. I'm tired. I've been up since 4:30, laughing at Chief Holiday, arguing with the Pan Boo Boos and Q Butter channel. He was up there from 12 midnight all the way to 8 o'clock this morning, fighting with two dudes.
wow.
They'll
What?
fight.
Well,
They'll fight. Then they'll the conversation will calm down, and and they start talking to each other like they just love each other, and it was just funny. It was funny.
So what happened with
I
Cuddy channel? Why they cut his
I
channel
don't
off?
know. I called Cuddy, but he was real busy. I guess he was working and doing something. He said he would get back to me, but I don't know the gist of it. But I told him, one thing you should do is stop people from coming on your piano sometimes because they say shit purposely to get
yeah,
your
and
channel
drop
strike.
plugs. Yeah, drop
And
plugs,
be,
cause
yeah,
all the
and
dissent. So,
I told him be careful, but he didn't get back to me yet, so he's probably busy. But
Oh
I guess
man,
the
they
last
jacked
thing,
up.
I want to thank you for your deciphering in the manner and approach of what you do, Sister Bethy. I'm
thanks.
sorry I came in late, but I appreciate what Georgia Peach was asking. The problem for us, again, is being confident. See, these
Yeah,
people will pencil whip us and continue to paper genocide, then tell us to prove they stole from you, Georgia Peach.
I
This
yeah,
is the
know.
irony of the stuff. We don't have to really prove anything. They have to prove they are standing on stolen land, haven't received ill-gotten gain. And until we file these lawsuits, and thank you, Queen Mother, for taking the initiative, but I really wish that we would take this defamation lawsuit to the next. I'm talking about Farrakhan's. Take it
Oh
to the
God,
next
no, I
level.
don't want to even go there today.
No.
Oh, Boomer, let it go, honey. Please, for tonight. I want to get off this panel. I don't want to hear about Farrakhan. Not
Well,
today.
I appreciate the best that
I
I'll catch
don't.
you
I'm
on the
tired,
flip side.
Georgia. Thank you,
I know,
Georgia.
baby. I ain't tripping.
Tired.
I'll catch you on the next time, though. I appreciate you letting me up. And God
Thanks,
bless.
Georgia. Bless you, Georgia. Thank you for coming up visiting us. I'm just tired, Georgia. That's all. I'm
I
sleepy.
know. Go lay down,
I'm
girl,
sleepy.
and get you some
Okay.
tea and chill out.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. So, y'all, we covered today. We talked about dealing with loved ones and indoctrinations, the feelings of shock and shame after finding out or hearing such. Trump 2024, by the way, I'm always going to have the last word, regardless to what Ali Babu said.
2024.
Okay. And understanding the Indian and instilling that confidence in you. There's so many creative ways we can find our ancestors, like the surveying of the land. It's the little things that you gotta, like, okay, if they're surveying Indian land, then they got census sheets in those between those years. Let me find my ancestor, and they have the census sheets, big as day. I'm like, boom. You're not living in this particular territory unless you're that Indian. That's why they had all those 16-year-olds to 50-year-olds registering for the militia in each voting district area that's been assigned. They're police stations now. So, yeah. So, think jurisdiction, counties. What Indians occupied this back in 1870, 1880. That's the Indian my Nana was, 1890. The land ain't going nowhere. It's still there. Always remember that. Just because they stopped surveying them in 1879, would it say? I keep forgetting that damn number. I'm tired. That's why. Just because they, stopped surveying the land. They finished the surveying in 1879. Hey, that doesn't mean you can't prove it with an 1880 census, wherever your family was. And that's in all the 50 states, because they surveyed all the Indian lands in all the 50 states. And all the 50 states have voting districts, and they have militia, aka police districts. Keep that in mind. You don't have to listen to the band boo-boos. Move along. I think we dropped some heavy bonds today, right, Isness?
I think so. Especially with that document that you, with a white and a Negro.
Yep. They got to keep that in mind. So let's drop us some bombs for today, y'all. We Indian hunters. Bombs dropping. Love y'all. And I am out of here. Ad Power is not live. I'm out. Stay on, Isness.
All right.
Yeah. Conscious. Matic. Alright, so far where I come from. I sit and wonder about the times that it made sense. But nowadays I don't worry about what's past tense. My younger days I used to hang around with mad friends. If we just fell out, I don't really know what happened. A lot of people come around and keep you stagnant, distraction. So you don't show them no compassion. We was really out here grinding, really rapping, stacking them Franklins, them Grants, and them Jacksons. Imagine if we would've never chased our passion. We probably would've never knew what happened. They was all just talk, we showed action. Once they leave, don't you let them back in. Just pack up all their stuff and send them packing. I'm blacking on anybody thinking they could act up with me. This vibe ain't for free, cause where I'm at in life, I'm only focused on me. Note the self, know yourself, focus on your health. They don't wanna help, then fuck it, do it by yourself. Don't give them no excuse to put you on the shelf. If it's me, myself, and I, then it's no one else. Yeah. Self-love is the best love. It's the people who always give that never get love. They ain't real enough to probably say they messed up. Just let it go and make the best of it. Yeah, self-love is the best love.
We still back here, ha ha. Y'all thought we was gone. We ain't gone yet. I know y'all still out there.
Time's been
We ain't
moving
leave yet.
slowly, so we already in too deep. Can't get no sleep on each other, heavy teasing all day, and when the sun sets, you asking